Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving deep into something that, well, at first glance might seem simple, maybe even a bit cliche, gratitude.
Right.
But the material we're exploring today suggests is anything but simple. It's presented as this profound, transformative force with real impact on your well-being.
That's exactly right. The source material we're drawing from is a document by Pastor Mark Finley titled An Attitude of Gratitude. And what makes this deep dive so interesting, I think, is how it bridges different worlds. It pulls insights from scientific research and connects them with ancient wisdom and, significant historical texts.
So it's not just one perspective. It brings in people like Selye, a foundational scientific thinker, and modern researchers like Emmons and McCullough, and puts them right alongside ancient voices, like the psalmist, that powerful story of the 10 lepers from the Bible, and even Jesus' own example.
Exactly. Our mission isn't just to define gratitude, but to go beyond the concept and really understand its impact. What does cultivating gratitude actually do for you, according to the evidence and stories laid out here?
Right.
We're going to try and extract the most impactful nuggets for you.
Let's start where the document does then, with this compelling link between gratitude and stress, and it says it's backed by science.
Yes.
The material introduces Selye, the physician who basically put stress on the map, right? Coined the term way back in 1936.
That's him. He defines stress as the wear and tear of life's forces, or, more formally, the non-specific response of the body to any demand for change.
And Finley's document points out that while sure, a little stress can motivate you,
right, a little bit,
it's the long-term chronic stress that really does the damage. The source lists some serious stuff: heart attacks, strokes, kidney disease, rheumatoid arthritis, a whole range of stress-related illnesses.
It paints a pretty stark picture, yeah. What that prolonged pressure actually does to us.
Sounds pretty grim. But Selye, after observing people who seemed to handle life's pressures better, he proposed a kind of antidote.
He did, a powerful one. He identified this common trait among those resilient folks and coined the phrase, an attitude of gratitude.
An attitude of gratitude.
And he's quoted in the document calling gratitude the healthiest of all human emotions.
The healthiest of all human emotions. Wow. That's a strong claim from a scientist.
It really is. Selye believed cultivating gratitude wasn't just like a nice feeling. He observed people with this attitude tended to be happier, healthier, performed better at work.
Easier to be around, maybe.
Yeah, easier to work with, exactly.
Yeah.
And the document emphasizes that for Selye, being truly grateful meant accepting life's ups and downs, with a certain grace, not letting challenges totally derail you.
So it's less about pretending things aren't hard.
Right.
And more about how you frame it, accepting the bad with the good.
Precisely. According to this view, it leads to the state of contentment, sort of an inner peace, satisfaction, embracing the disappointments as well as the joys.
Okay, that covers the early scientific thought. What about more modern research? Does it test these ideas? The document mentions Emmons and McCullough.
Yes, they're presented as pioneers in the modern scientific study of gratitude. Their research, like the study called Counting Blessings versus Burdens, really set out to investigate these benefits Selye observed, but, experimentally.
And Finley's material details one of their key studies. What did they actually find?
Well, in one study, with around 200 undergrads, they split them into 3 groups. For 10 weeks, one group listed things they were grateful for each week.
Just like 5 things.
Up to 5 things, yeah. Another group listed daily hassles, irritants, and the third group, the control, just reported significant life events.
Okay. And the results? What happened with the gratitude group compared to the others?
The findings were pretty compelling. The group that regularly practiced gratitude reported feeling significantly better about their lives overall.
Just generally happier.
Happier, more optimistic about the week ahead, and interestingly, they reported fewer physical complaints. Things like headaches, colds, muscle aches, fewer than the other 2 groups.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, isn't it? Because it suggests this isn't just a philosophy.
No.
You've got Selye's observations and now modern controlled studies suggesting a real, measurable link. Cultivating gratitude seems to have tangible benefits impacting mood and maybe physical well-being too.
Yeah, it affects your whole experience of life in ways you might not expect.
Which leads to that fascinating point the material raises. If science is uncovering this now, Where did the idea even come from? The document takes us way back, ancient wisdom, texts.
Exactly. It makes the case that the psalmist, King David, writing thousands of years ago, seemed to get this intuitively.
How so?
Well, Psalm 28, verse 7 is quoted. "The Lord is my strength and shield. My heart trusts in him, and I am helped. Therefore my heart greatly rejoiceth, and with my song will I praise him."
Okay, and the connection drawn from that.
The suggestion is that when we gratefully acknowledge help and offer praise, we are helped. It's presented almost like a cycle. Praise and thankfulness open your mind, your heart, to receive blessings.
The document also brings in Ellen White, known for her extensive writings, emphasizing gratitude too.
Yes, heavily. Quoting from Ministry of Healing, she states it very directly. "Nothing tends more to promote health of body and of soul than does a spirit of gratitude and praise."
Strong words.
Very. And she goes further, calling it a positive duty to actively resist negative thoughts, melancholy, discontent. Finley's material even includes her observations about people who complain constantly, suggesting they lack a genuine religion.
A positive duty to resist negativity. That feels hard, especially when things are genuinely tough.
It does, and I think that's the point. It shifts gratitude from being just a feeling you wait for to an intentional practice, something you cultivate. And the material underscores why it's important by showing what happens when you don't.
Which brings us to that really powerful story highlighted in the material, the 10 lepers from Luke 17.
This story, as presented, is absolutely central. And to get the full weight, the document first describes leprosy back then. It wasn't just an illness.
No, it was seen as horrific, a curse from God.
Exactly. Causing devastating disfigurement, skin, bones, twisted limbs, claw hands, facial changes, tumors, blindness, and crucially, it destroyed nerve endings. Loss of pain sensation.
So they'd injure themselves without even knowing it.
Constantly. Highly contagious, total isolation for life. They had to shout, "Leper," wherever they went. Literally society's untouchables.
Oh, healing from that. It wasn't just curing a disease, it was total restoration.
Yeah.
Back from a living death.
Exactly. The story itself is stark, brief. Jesus meets 10 lepers. They call out from a distance. He just tells them, "Go show yourselves to the priests."
And as they're walking away, obeying him,
they're cleansed, healed, miraculously. But only one comes back to thank him. And the document notes he was a Samaritan, a foreigner, doubly marginalized.
And Jesus' response is so telling, isn't it? Were there not 10 cleansed? But where are the 9? Were there not any found who returned? Except this foreigner.
Chilling, almost. And from that simple exchange, Finley's material pulls out 3 profound, eternal truths. First, Jesus values the least. No untouchables with Christ. His grace actively reaches the rejected, the despairing.
He meets people where they are.
Right. The document uses the metaphor of the leprosy of sin disfiguring us and how Jesus meets us right there.
Okay, his grace is universal. What's the second truth?
Second, Jesus honors faith. Think about it. The 10 lepers didn't wait to see the healing. They obeyed his command to go before they were cleansed. They walked forward by faith.
Trusting his word without seeing the solution yet.
Exactly. It's that act of faith, the document argues, that opens heaven's channels of blessing.
They acted first, then the miracle happened. And the third key truth.
Third, Jesus rewards gratitude. The one leper who came back didn't just say thanks. He glorified God, fell at Jesus' feet, and Jesus says to him, "Arise, go your way, your faith has made you well." And the document points out the specific Greek word used for well. There is zozo.
Zozo. Okay, what's the significance of that word? How's it different from just healed?
It's much richer. It means wholeness in the mind, will, and emotions. It's a complete healing body, soul, and spirit. And the material notes, zozo is the same word, often translated as saved or salvation elsewhere, saved from destruction, brought into spiritual wholeness.
Wow. So the one leper who came back grateful, he didn't just get a skin fix. He got a deeper kind of healing. A total restoration, even spiritual salvation.
That's the powerful conclusion drawn here. The other 9 got physical healing, yes. But the one who returned in thanks received peace of mind, forgiveness, hope, a transformation of his inner being. He essentially became a new person.
It really makes you pause. Think about what the 9 missed out on. Their bodies were healed, but
their minds, their souls, didn't get that same profound restoration. The material, referencing Ellen White again, says their ingratitude made them forget who healed them. By their ingratitude, they closed their hearts against the grace of God.
Oof.
Yeah. It becomes this compelling call to actively change ingratitude into one of praise and thanksgiving, remembering God as the source, the first great giver.
What's striking is how these ancient accounts, the psalmist's reflection, this dramatic leper story, they really underline the value placed on returning thanks, suggesting it opens the door to blessings far deeper than just the initial gift.
And building right on that, the document then invites us to look at Jesus himself as the ultimate practical model for cultivating gratitude. It calls him the most positive person ever, even facing huge challenges, highlighting his praise life.
How did he show gratitude? What specific things did he thank the Father for, according to this source?
Several key examples. First, for life's necessities. John 6, feeding the 5,000. Just 5 loaves, 2 fish. Jesus paused, gave thanks.
Right, before the miracle.
Before the miracle. And the material pulls 3 lessons from that simple act.
Okay, lesson 1.
1. In the hands of Jesus, little is much. Be grateful for what you do have. Trust he can multiply it.
Simple but profound. Second.
2. Be grateful for the simple, basic provisions. He satisfied a huge crowd with just a simple lunch. Appreciate the adequate, everyday stuff.
Makes sense. And the third lesson from thanking for food.
3. Grateful hearts are giving hearts. After giving thanks, Jesus gave the food to the disciples, who then gave it to the crowd. Gratitude flowed right into giving.
The material includes that little donut story here too, right, to illustrate the giving part.
A small human example. This woman, Laura, regularly gave $1 to someone begging. The beggar disappears, then reappears later, looking well-dressed.
Not begging anymore.
Not begging. Handing out donuts. She explained she got a job, an apartment, and felt such gratitude for the kindness shown that she just had to give back somehow. Simple picture, but it shows how gratitude overflows into generosity.
Okay, so necessities. What else did Jesus express gratitude for?
Second, for revealing truth. In Matthew 11:205, Jesus says, I thank thee, because thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent and revealed them unto babes. He was thankful that crucial truths weren't just for the elite, but for sincere, humble people.
And the material lists some of those truths he was thankful were revealed. Things like
Forgiveness through him, the joy of salvation, the power of the Holy Spirit to overcome, the joy of worship, Sabbath rest, the hope of his return, eternal fellowship, huge things.
Right.
And the suggestion is, when you're feeling down, focus on these truths. Intentionally thank God for them. It can be a powerful shift.
That connects right back to that positive duty idea, resisting negative thoughts by focusing on things to be grateful for.
Absolutely. Third point, answered prayer. John 11, Lazarus' resurrection. Before calling him out, Jesus prays, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me.
He thanked him before Lazarus came out.
Yes. Gratitude, not just for the miracle to come, but for the fundamental reality. He had a father who always heard him. The document says this kind of gratitude opens the heart to receive answers. Faith grabs hold of the provisions. Prayer is the channel.
There's that really amazing story about David Livingstone here, isn't there?
Incredible account. Livingstone's in Africa facing a hostile tribe planning to kill him and his group. He wrote in his journal, Jan 14th, 1856, very honestly about his fear. Much turmoil and fear.
Understandable.
Totally. But then the account says he turned to Jesus' promise, Matthew 28. All power is given unto me. Lo, I am with you always. And Livingstone immediately wrote, this is the word of a gentleman of most strict and sacred honor. So that's the end of my fear. I feel quiet and calm now.
Wow. Just recalling and trusting the promise shifted him from fear to calm.
That's how it's presented. Claiming promises by faith, expressing gratitude for God's presence before seeing the solution. But the story gets wilder. Years later, he learns from the tribe's chief why they didn't attack that night.
Why? What happened?
The chief said they saw Livingstone surrounded by 47 warriors.
47. But he had no guards.
Exactly. Later, back in Scotland, someone shows Livingstone their prayer journal. On that exact night, January 14th, 1856, a group had gathered specifically to pray for Livingstone's safety. How many men were praying?
Let me guess. 47.
47.
That's quite a story. A powerful illustration of faith, prayer, protection.
And the material uses it to show how remembering and maybe even journaling these kinds of things, instances of faithfulness, can build both faith and thankfulness.
Okay. Necessities, truth, answered prayer. What's the last example of Jesus' gratitude?
Finally, and maybe the most moving, giving thanks for provision and suffering. The Last Supper, Matthew 26. Jesus takes bread, wine symbols of his body, his blood, and he gives thanks.
But the context, as the material lays out, it was just horrific. Minutes from betrayal, denial, mockery, trial, scourging, the cross, bearing all guilt, the Father turning away. How could he possibly express gratitude then?
The document points to Hebrews 12:2. Looking into Jesus, for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. He could give thanks in that agony because he kept an eternal perspective.
He focused on the outcome, not just the immediate pain.
Exactly. By faith, he looked past the cross to what it would achieve. Redeemed people, Satan defeated, the Father's welcome, eternal fellowship. His heart was filled with gratitude, not for the suffering itself, but for the glorious reality that suffering would make possible.
So the lesson for us then is even in our own trials, our painful moments, we can find gratitude by shifting perspective, focusing on the joy set before us, the future hope, just like he did.
That seems to be the core message there. And what's really impactful, seeing all these threads together, is that gratitude isn't just presented as, a fleeting feeling or a polite thank you.
No, it's much more.
Finley's document makes this strong case, using science, ancient wisdom, Jesus' example. That it's an attitude, a positive duty even, a consistent practice that brings profound benefits, physical, mental, emotional, and, yes, according to the source, spiritual benefits too.
It's essentially laying out a roadmap, isn't it? Accept the ups and downs. Actively resist negative thinking. Thank God for basics. Appreciate simple things. Let gratitude lead to giving. Be thankful for truth. Acknowledge answered prayer. And even in suffering, look to the future hope.
Precisely. And the potential transformation described is huge. That wholeness, the zozo the one leper got, inner peace, genuine joy, that urge to give back.
This deep dive, pulling from science, history, spiritual examples, it really gives you a multifaceted view on how intentionally cultivating gratitude as an attitude, a practice, can fundamentally impact your whole life, your whole experience.
So, reflecting on all this, from Selye's observations and the modern research showing measurable effects.
And the psalmist's song, that stark difference between the one grateful leper and the 9 who weren't, and Jesus giving thanks right before the cross.
It really leads us to a key question, doesn't it? Considering the difference in outcome, the deeper blessing described across these sources, what might you be missing out on by not intentionally cultivating an attitude of gratitude in your own life?
Or, flipping that around, how could making that conscious effort to find and express gratitude, especially when times are tough, how could that fundamentally change your experience? Maybe open you up to that deeper peace, that wholeness? Definitely something to think about, maybe even try out based on what we've explored here.